When we talk about Goa, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Pristine beaches, a tourist dream destination, and a place where many hope that they can one day retire and live a great lifestyle. Well, for the last 6 days, beautiful Goa has been fighting fire, literally. Goa's forests have been burning with IAF and Navy choppers deployed to douse these fires. Nearly 200 fires have erupted in the last 36 hours as strong winds and high temperatures are further flaming these fires. For now, firefighters see no respite till Monday, while the Goa Chief Minister Pramod Sawant says it's possible this fiery disaster is man-made, alluding to the involvement of cashew planters within the Maneck Wildlife Sanctuary who may have started the fire as part of the cultivation process. The fire department is also talking about the impact of climate change. We all know that this was one of the hottest Februarys on record, and March is also already sizzling. In Goa, temperatures have increased by 5 degrees in the last few days and is clocking a high at 38.4 degrees. It's clearly a tinderbox situation. So how do we ensure this tourist favorite does not become prey to environmental disaster? To speak on this, I'm joined today by Maneck, Contractor. He's a businessman from Goa, prominent citizen there. Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate, who is also now a Goa Nivasi in part. Sujit Kumar Dongre, Center for Environment and Education, is with us on the show, and Sandeep Parker, who's an environmentalist, is also with us on the show. So let me begin with the subject experts first. Mr. Dongre, I want to understand why this fire has gone on for 6 days, why it's being called one of the worst ecological situations in Goa in its history.
Thank you for having me on this show. Let me begin by saying these forest fires are recurring phenomenon. It's not new in the forest. They have been occurring across the country and across the globe. What makes the headlines for the state of Goa is that the fire that we are seeing, the intensity is very, very high, and the number of patches that we are seeing in the forest are very high, which unfortunately we did not see in the past, but this phenomenon has increased. The reason for the forest fire, as a scientist and expert, I believe that the climate change induced rainfall pattern that we are seeing in the state of Goa perhaps is one of the reasons why the forest fire that we are seeing is rampant. When I say the climate change induced rainfall pattern change, means if you see the rainfall for over a period, maybe about 5 to 6 years or 10 years rainfall pattern, the rains have shifted their months. Usually the rain that we get in the month of end of May or in the beginning of June, but now we are seeing the rainfall much earlier, and the pattern is changed, and the amount of rainfall that you get over a period of about 6 months from June to September, we are getting the rainfall very quickly in few days. And there are a lot of
1 minute. You're linking this to 1 minute. I want to understand this better. You're linking this to climate change, but we have the government talking about this possibly being man-made. I just want to get Sandeep Parker. I'll come back to you, Mr. Dongre. I want to get Sandeep Parker's voice on this as well. So is this likely to be man-made, or are you seeing the impact of climate change? Because with most forest fires, the first match, so to speak, lit is because of human intervention.
I feel it's a conspiracy. It's a man-made disaster. It's being a biodiversity hotspot. Maneck Wildlife Sanctuary is one of the strongest points for Goa in Supreme Court regarding the diversion of Maneck River. So it was purposefully done because it is a biodiversity hotspot, and we have a strong point in Supreme Court. We are defending this.
No, so why would someone purposely do this? 1 minute, I can't understand the conspiracy. Why would someone purposely do this?
Since we have Maneck diversion river issue in the Supreme Court, it is Maneck Wildlife Sanctuary is the strongest point for Goa government. to defend the case of diversion of Maneck River. So some did it purposefully to destroy the biodiversity hotspot of Maneck Wildlife Sanctuary. And some people don't want Maneck Wildlife Sanctuary as a tiger reserve. So these are the two major assets.
That's a very serious allegation and very, upsetting to hear. Mr. Maneck, Contractor, Mr. Sanjay Hegde, I've invited you on this show because yes, definitely this is an environmental issue. There are environmental concerns, but it's important to include the voices of citizens and what they feel and what they need to do to protect their environment. Mr. Contractor, let me begin with you. You are like many people who have made Goa your home. And especially, I think after the pandemic, many people from outside the state have also made Goa their home. They're enjoying the best that Goa has to offer. How do you respond when you see an environmental disaster like this taking place?
Thank you for having me on the show. And to start with, I've been living in Goa for the last 30 years. I came here in '92. And I've basically been sailing the coasts. And I have a very good idea of what the weather's been doing. And this season, we've had exceptionally dry wind coming in from the east, which is a climatic condition. We've had not much westerly wind, which brings in humidity. And what we have noticed is a lot of even the leaves which fall from the trees are falling down extremely dry. At this time of the year, we have an extreme amount of biomass, which is, again, dry, collected in the fields as well as the forests. So we have ideal conditions for these forest fires to occur. Whether they're happening intentionally or naturally is something to be investigated, I guess, by the authorities. But my take here is basically we have very ideal conditions for ignition of fires.
Sanjay Hegde, tell us how you look at the situation unfolding, your Goa connection also for our viewers, to understand why we've invited you on this panel and the kind of focus this area needs to preserve it ecologically.
Well, Maneck and I are relatively neighbors in Goa. We just found out by talking on this program. Yes, I do have a small vacation home in Goa. I go there frequently. My mother's best friend was one of the grand dames of Goa. She was an English professor, Maria Couto, who also taught in Delhi's LSR. And so if you had to know Goa, the real Goa, which is away from the sea and which is on the other side of the highway, you had to know people like Mrs. Couto. Now, the thing is, I've listened to everybody on the program, and I do disagree with Mr. Parker, who thinks that, this case which is pending in the Supreme Court might be somewhere responsible. There, you see, it's a case between Karnataka, the state of Karnataka, and the state of Goa with regard to the river Madai. It's called Madai in Karnataka, it's called Mandovi in Goa. Now, we may have bad governments, but I don't think any government sets fire to a neighboring state just to win a case in the court. So that seems a bit far-fetched. But yes, there has been a certain amount of climate change. There is this theory also that, especially out here in the forested Ghat areas of the Madai, where land is cheap, and where there are some cashew plantations, some of the cashew plant operators, etc., may have had their normal operations, which also involve some smoke, some fire. Some of it may have gone out of hand. That is a theory which is now doing the rounds. Irrespective of the causes of the fire, the fact is that with a greater population density, particularly with a lot of temporary migrants, permanent migrants, and everywhere, Goa has to be made habitable for everyone.
Right.
It's a shared resource. It's a shared resource for the country, not only as a vacation spot, but increasingly as a living spot. we all have not only a shared commitment to being there, but also to rendering a better Goa. Whatever it takes, after the investigation, if there is any concentrated citizens movement for restoration of the forests, I'm sure that people like Mickey and Maneck and I would all be willing to contribute whatever we can in terms of time and other resources.
You know, I think, Mr. Hegde, you've touched upon an important point, and I'm not just talking about the contribution of citizens, but Goa has become, in that sense, a shared space. People coming in not just for holidays, people, you know, now that you can work from anywhere, a lot of people have moved there to work from there for as long as they possibly can. You can see that in more and more traffic jams in the hotspots of Goa, which used to never be there. You can see that on the immense strain on, you know, the establishment there, all of the resources there coming in, which is why I want to take this conversation to a larger domain. Mr. Dongre, let me bring you in on this. Do you think that it's really time to look at Goa's ecological sensitivity? I mean, we can't come to a conclusion on whether these particular sets of fires are man-made or climate change, because there is going to be now an investigation. They have to give their first preliminary report by 14th of March, so we'll have to wait for that. But do you think that this is now a portion which is being ignored? Have we taken into consideration the number of people who've moved in there?
Yeah, I think, Goa itself is a very ecologically fragile state. Now we have the Western Ghats, one of the hottest biodiversity hotspots in the world. We also have plateau regions which are very important in terms of water security. We also have a low-lying coastal region. What happens in the Ghats, if in case, for example, today we are facing this the fire problem. So as in the beginning I said, the climate change induced things are very important to understand. Number one, what I said is when there is a change in the rainfall pattern, it is actually changing the soil moisture content. At the same time, it is also changing the phenology of the forest. For example, you have a dry deciduous forest in these areas. What happens is these dry deciduous forests shed their leaves, and today what is happening is they are shedding the leaves much earlier than what is the normal thing. So that also is accumulating these dry leaves on the ground. And the third thing is also it's very important to see that humidity increase. And you know that the water vapors are very important. They trap the heat and increase the atmospheric temperature.
No, so what can be done about this? What can be done about this, Mr. Dongre?
Pardon me?
What can be done about this?
Yeah, so these are very important to understand. Very critical to understand. And in my opinion, so these three are very, they are recipe for any disasters. And what we're seeing in terms of forest fire is one of the reasons why they're increasing, and also because of the wind velocity, they're spreading to different places. With respect to ecology, yes, we need to understand these processes, and of course we have to take a very conscious decision in order to protect this Western Ghats, because these Western Ghats are mother of all rivers, and what water that we are getting in the coastal plains, coastal areas are actually coming from this Western Ghats, and protecting the Western Ghats, its integrity both in terms of diversity of life and physiographic regions is very, very essential for the state of Goa as a tourist destination.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Parker, do you want to respond to some of the points that have been made? Your conspiracy theory has been questioned when you're saying this is linked to the case that you're fighting in the top court.
With regard to the tiger reserve, our own people from Goa don't want wildlife sanctuary, Maneck Wildlife Sanctuary as a tiger reserve. So conspiracy may be from any side, irrespective of state. Second thing, saying some land mafia are interested in forest land for the development of floating purpose. So it may be their conspiracy. One cannot rule out.
No, but do you have a basis for this claim? Do you have a basis for this claim?
Yeah, last 2-3 months, we saw Wageri Hill, which was encroached by some encroachers. Some illegality was going on Wageri Hill in Sattari. So one cannot rule out my statement.
Okay.
There
in
was
fact,
the incident of encroachment on the hill.
no, in fact, Mr. Hegde, this is a statement which has been made by senior ministers of the Goa government as well. That this looks like it could be man-made. They are talking about, the process of cashew cultivation. Let me get Mr. Hegde in on this. And that then raises very serious questions of what the forest officials were doing.
I have no doubt that the forest officials were doing a bit of sousegard, to put it mildly. But there can be theories. There can be theories that these were private people who had interests in not maintaining that place as a wildlife biodiversity hotspot. My limited point was that as far as the river waters dispute was concerned, that was between two states, and I don't think two states set fire to each other's territory.
That's not what he specifically said, though. That's not what he specifically. He did not make that specific.
So what he seems to be saying is that it could be the cashew mafia, or it could be other people who do not want that place to be developed, tigers to be introduced in that area. That is those are very specific kind of allegations, and any theory. You're advancing theories ahead of the facts. Let the facts come out in an investigation.
Absolutely. It needs to have an investigation. Facts need to come out. And, the bigger picture over here, Maneck, it's everyone wants a slice of paradise. Everybody wants a slice of paradise, but there's only so much to go around, isn't it?
True. And as we've seen over here, the land prices have soared. So it could be that regular locals, not just land mafia tycoons or anybody, just regular locals who want to have their land use changed and are using this as a means of clearing forests or clearing farmland, which then is burnt and cannot be cultivated, and then having it converted. So there's a lot we can speculate at this point of time. I think it needs a thorough investigation before we can really pinpoint anything. However, I mean, I'm on several ecological groups, and one particularly being Earth Friendly, and we have been quite active. The group has been quite active in trying to find the culprits for these fires. And what we did note was that the fires were not ignited during the day. We haven't come across, our group hasn't come across, or we haven't been able to find any culprits for the fires in the areas which our volunteers have been.
We should leave that. We should leave that to the state government. They are going to have that investigation in place. But I think the larger message here is to, protect the very sensitive ecology of the region. Goa is much more than its beautiful beaches, and really needs that level of protection, focus and help from everyone who loves that slice of paradise. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on the lead story this evening. I'm going to move on to some international news now.